Welcome back to the best division in football with your boys Authentic and The Beard, the best television show not on TV. Sorry we missed y'all on Tuesday, but we figured we kind of lumped these two shows together, being that there are just two NFC East games this week. Happy New Year to the gang one time. Y'all know what it is, man. Shout out to the squad. The Pro Bowl selections came out today. The Philadelphia Eagles lead the NFC East. They're sending 6 players to the Pro Bowl. Saquon Barkley, Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens. I don't know how many times I got to tell y'all about how many times I told y'all about Cam Jurgens taking over for Jason Kelce, but he's a Pro Bowler this year, along with Jalen Carter and Zach Bond, the linebacker that they just acquired over there. The Cowboys are sending 4 players, CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Smith, Micah Parsons, Kevontae Turpin. The Commanders are sending 2 players, Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin. The Beard was telling me they got a ton of alternatives over there on the Pro Bowl. The New York Giants are sending just 1 player, Mr. Dexter Lawrence himself, with 2 alternatives, Malik Neighbors and Brian Burns. Those guys are going to be reserves in the Pro Bowls. But without further ado, let me bring in the best co-host in the country, the strong side to the left side duo. My brother from another mother. Shout out to my Dukes. I like how that's become a thing over here on Authentic and The Beard. The Beard is in the building. What's going on, my dog?
Feels good. Clinched the playoff spot. I mean, we're in the playoffs. We're fighting for the seed this week. So, I mean, the beard is hyped.
Got Notre Dame at 4 o'clock. I know I see the attire already. I see you're ready for the occasion.
Oh, yeah. I even got Notre Dame socks on. So, you know, like it's
a little too much information.
This is full-blown, it's go time. I mean, listen, it was an interesting week last week. And, you know, like Authentic said, we'll talk a little bit about those games as we preview this week's matchups. But listen, we're in crunch time. This is the last week of the regular season. I think there's only 2 playoff spots up for grabs this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. The NFC South and then the final wild card in the AFC. So there's still some teams that are playing.
Who's fighting? Are the Bengals still not mathematically eliminated in that instance? So Bengals and Broncos?
Bengals, Broncos, and Dolphins. So if the Broncos win, they're in. If the Broncos lose and Miami wins, Miami's in.
And if the Broncos are playing the Chiefs without Patrick Mahomes, so that's going to be an interesting one.
And then if the Broncos lose and the Dolphins lose and Cincinnati wins, they're in. So. Yeah. I mean, Buffalo, I'm pretty sure Buffalo is just hoping that Cincinnati doesn't get in. I mean, I know since Buffalo is really good, but that is a team that you do not want to play as like the number 2 seed in the playoffs is a team like Cincinnati. So, Pro Bowl came out. You know, this is Terry McLaurin's 2nd Pro Bowl, and in my opinion, his best year, obviously. I mean, he's been through so much. There's been a lot of talk on the sports talk radio here in D.C. on where Terry McLaurin ranks right now as a wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah. I had the conversation with the homies the other day. They're like, Terry's definitely top 10. I'm like, I can name 10 receivers better than Terry McLaurin right now.
See, some people think he's top 5. Some people think he's top 3. Some people say top 7, top 10. So those are basically the options. Yeah.
Top 3.
I would agree that I think Terry McLaurin is I think he's top 7. I don't know. You don't think so?
Are we only going off? Look,
this year right now.
Exactly. So will this year of productivity put Terry McLaurin? This the easy way to buffer this all out. Would this year put Terry McLaurin over Tyreek Hill? That you have to think about it is crazy.
Yeah. I think Tyreek Hill is probably an interesting one in the conversation because Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill, you know? So, like, it's kind of hard
and any other wide receiver who's had a bit of a down year, but, like, I'm not putting Terry McLaurin over Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I'm struggling to put a guy like Terry McLaurin over T. Higgins even. That's where I'm at with that. He is the only guy over there in Washington, when you think about it, that is like a true weapon for them.
Yeah.
So he's going to take a good bit of the target share, I feel like. But top 3 is asinine. Top 5 is fucking crazy. Top 10, all right, you can maybe make a discussion out of it. But, like, are we putting Terry McLaurin over Amon-Ra St. Brown? No.
Well,
in no world, bro. He just barely eclipsed 1,000 yards. And what did he have last week? 1 catch for 5 yards?
It was a bad game last
Top
week.
5 wide receivers ain't doing that kind of shit. Sorry. Not to throw too much shade on the boy, but
I'm
real
here for it. I appreciate your honesty.
Why is that a conversation? Top 3?
I listen. It's been a conversation.
My thing is, so we're saying is Jamar Chase,
Justin Jefferson
and Terry McLaurin.
McLaurin.
What the fuck? I can't believe we started the show like this. What the hell is going on?
I would put him in my top 10. I'd put him in my top 10.
I'm not putting him in my top 10.
He's one of the best receivers statistically this year, right? And he's doing that. Him and Amon-Ra St. Brown are very eerily similar because as far as the targets go, they have the fewest amount of targets of almost all of those wide receivers. But yes, he is in a Pro Bowl, and as is Jaden Daniels. A lot of people think Baker Mayfield got snubbed in that.
Yeah, a little bit.
If I were to switch one out, I think I would put Baker Mayfield in over Jared Goff.
I don't know, man. Jared Goff really had one bad game all year long.
Yeah, too many interceptions for Baker.
A few bad games. Yeah, he's had a few. He's had about 4 or 5 games where you'd be like, "Ooh, Baker's kind of looking a little rough, a little rusty out there right now."
And so there were some people that were, obviously a lot of hometown fans think that every one of their players should be in the Pro Bowl and think that there's some snubs. But I think for the most part, my team, I feel like they did pretty well. Like I said, we have 11 alternates. Some of those guys are first alternates, seconds, and then there's a few. I didn't even realize they did fifth alternates, but so many people pull out of the Pro Bowl that they have to have those listed these days. So I think it was pretty fair. I think Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner. Bobby's a first alternate. Louvu's a second alternate. So, outside of that, Dexter
Louvu's
Fowler
had a great year.
Louvu's been fantastic. So, but offensively, maybe Biotish at center, but, I mean, we're reaching at that point. So, but I'm happy.
For the Giants, we really, we have a talent deficiency on our team. And I'm surprised we even got even Dexter Lawrence up there. I mean, he got injured, got put on IR here, but I mean, he is the best at his position. There's no doubt about that. But before we move into this game, I'm willing to sit up here and tell you that Malik Neighbors is a better wide receiver than Terry McLaurin.
I would disagree with you.
Yeah. I mean, just look at what he does on the field. I still think Terry McLaurin is cut from the old cloth of wide receiver. He's from the Mike Evans era, the end of that. And Mike Evans is a guy I'd even consider. But I think Terry McLaurin is a solid wide receiver, but he lacks that juice that the top end guys have. Like when you think about Chase, Jefferson, those guys, I think Terry McLaurin lacks that juice, and not necessarily just like from a speed standpoint, just from like catch the ball and we're game planning to stop that guy. I think there's too many lulls in his game for me. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I was going to say he's more leaning towards the Darius Slaytons of the world than he's leaning towards the guys like the Malik Neighbors of the world, in my opinion. Like Malik Neighbors gets out there and you're like, bro, is this like and one basketball? 177 with Drew Lock at quarterback? I
can't do it. I listen.
Somebody in the chat said he top 3 in Washington.
I saw that.
I mean, Brody. All right. I mean, that shit. Yeah. All right, let's get off into these previews because that is just the craziest statement. Top 3? Who the fuck is talking about that right now? Why do they have a job?
I would have find the poll and sent it to you.
They had a conversation about Terry McLaurin in the top 3. All right, we're gonna make that its own video because we got a lot more to talk about that
immediately.
Bro, that shit is crazy.
Before you clip anything, I just want to make it be known that
above 1,000 yards.
The beard did not say he was top 3. Let's just make that clear and evident.
You said top 7.
I said top 7.
Y'all motherfuckers in Washington, bro. I don't know what kind of K2 y'all be smoking out here, bro. All right, let's go ahead and get off into my game first, man. The least interesting of the 2 games. The New York Giants are going to be traveling to Philadelphia to take on those Philadelphia Eagles for the last game of the season.
Giants are on the board with 11:16 to go here in the third.
Y'all then had to get something to drink after that.
That shit was crazy, bro. Motherfucker said top 3. All right. The New York Giants are coming in at 3-13, man. The Philadelphia Eagles have the flip-flop record at 13-3. I can remember a particular Twitter space at the beginning of the year where a lot of people were talking about the division is wide open and the conference is wide open. Tom Brady's not here no more and all this other stuff, and that the Philadelphia Eagles window is closing. I think they didn't compensate for the addition of Saquon Barkley in this one. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I got the Eagles favored by 3. Last week, the Giants, haven't said this in 11 weeks, beat the Colts 45-33.
Bro, how?
Yeah, please interject.
They were averaging 14.9 points a game. I mean,
put up 45.
Me and probably everybody else who was in fantasy championships were running to the waiver wire to pick up Colts defense, right?
Yeah.
They gave me negative 4 points. The Giants scored more points in one game against a team fighting for its playoff lives.
Yeah. And that's been the story for the Colts for a while now. Like, they get to the end of the year, they're a team that really should be more committed to the rebuild, but instead they're pulling a Joe Shane where they're trying to compete and rebuild at the same time. Mm-hmm. They get down to the end of the season, 7, 8 wins, and they always miss the playoffs by a game or two. Did it with Gardner Minshew, did it with who was it before that? Carson Wentz. They've just continuously been the same story with them. But Philadelphia Eagles dog walked the Dallas Cowboys last week 41-7. And a lot of that had to do without having CeeDee Lamb, obviously, makes the Dallas Cowboys a different team, but the Eagles were the better team on the day. Last meeting, the Eagles beat the Giants. That was earlier this season. They beat us 28-3. Saquon rushed for 176 yards. He's just 100 yards away from breaking the Eric Dickerson record. Nick Sirianni came out and told him that they're going to rest the starters in this one. And Saquon looked a little bit upset in that presser. Now, the Giants snapped a 10-game losing streak last week. Drew Lock put up 5 touchdowns versus the Colts. He finished 17-23 for 309 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air, 1 touchdown on the ground. The Giants held the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 draft entering Week 17, and now they're sitting at the 4th overall selection. A lot of fans, including myself, took to social media right after that game to express our negative comments that we wanted to speak on about this draft. And I see a lot of people saying, well, the players aren't going to tank. The players aren't going to tank. But that's not what we're not happy about. We're not happy about the Giants going out there and winning a game. I don't expect the players to go out there and play half-ass football. If they're out there, they're going to play 100%. That is what it is. Malik Neighbors went out there, got over 1,000 yards on the season, which in my eyes is not the greatest accomplishment, but it is a good accomplishment. Malik Neighbors leads the league in targets right now, and to get over 1,000 yards is something that should be expected at this point. And I expected that at the beginning of the year that Malik Neighbors would be teetering around 1,000 yards, but it's a good accomplishment nonetheless. Had his biggest game of the year, and I think that's what's more important, 177 yards. Damn near broke Kadarius Toney's single-game record for most receiving yards by a New York Giants receiver. Tyrone Tracy got over 1,000 yards. Talked about my concerns about Tyrone Tracy on the Giant overreaction. We'll double down on that here in a little bit. But the New York Giants are one of 3 duos to ever go over 1,000 yards apiece out of 2 rookies. So that is an accomplishment as well. The Giants couldn't get the rushing game going last week against Indy, and that has been the theme of the last couple of games. I'll say half of the games that we lost during that 10-game losing streak had to do with not being able to establish the run. Tyrone Tracy, 17 rushes for 54 yards and a long of 40 yards. That means outside of that 40-yard run, he had 16 carries for 14 yards. He has 5 straight games before that where he didn't rush for over 50 yards. The last time the New York Giants beat the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly was in 2013. Eli Manning was the quarterback. He went 25 of 39 for 246. The Eagles' starting quarterback was Matt Barkley. And despite 11 penalties and being 0 for 2 in the red zone, the New York Giants still won that game. I believe the score was 15-12. The Giants right now are 0-5 in the division. Last week, we came into the game 0-8 at home. We got our final hurrah. We win a home game. We were going to be the first team to ever start a season or finish a season 0-9 at home. And now we are 0-5 in the division, and we get one more shot here against the Philadelphia Eagles to go out here and try to get a win and salvage that. I do think it can help Brian Daboll's situation, whether he be fired or whether he'll be kept on the staff and whatnot. I think a victory here could help his case. The Eagles have solidified the number 2 seed and will rest their starters. We know there's going to be no Saquon Barkley, no Jalen Hurts, and it's looking like it's going to be Tanner McKee at quarterback, Jahan Dotson and Johnny Wilson at wide receiver, and Kenneth Gainwell at running back. And I will say this, I'm leaning towards, and I probably am going to pick the New York Giants to win this game. A little bit of recency bias here from what they did last week against the Colts, but this is a different defense, but they're probably going to field a lot of backup players in this game. I think, number one, you have to start by stopping Kenneth Gainwell. He is a very capable running back. And I think that the Giants have, I can't say it's been productive, but I will say at certain positions it's been pretty productive. Like, we know what we have in Malik Neighbors. I think although it's not elite ceiling, we know what we have in Wan'Dale Robinson. There are question marks around some other players. I think we kind of know what we got in Tyrone Tracy unless he can raise the bar a little bit. And I really would have liked to have seen the Giants come out in this game and experiment with Evan Neal at the guard position. You know, looking at the PFF statistics last week, Evan Neal has a top 5 run blocking grade in the NFL at the tackle position. He has a bottom 5 pass blocking grade. Yeah. Right? So it goes to show you that he can do some things well in the rushing attack. I'm not too sure why the Giants have not experimented with that a little bit. But this is going to be the Eagles' backups versus the Giants. The current Giants have a lot of backups in their lineup. Right? And I do think this will be the same kind of game plan for the New York Giants with some familiarity over the past couple of weeks, where the Eagles are not going to have that with Tanner McKee at quarterback. But look, I've been hearing some rumblings, you know, that this Tanner McKee kid can play ball. That's what I've been hearing. So we'll see. We'll get to see what he can put on display in this game. Can we finally get Tyrone Tracy kind of going in the mix? I'd like to see guys like Jalen Hyatt get some more snaps as well. Maybe try to focus Daniel Bellinger a little bit more in the game plan. I think when they have targeted him, he has done some things well this year. But I think the number one factor for the New York Giants in this game is going to be stop Kenneth Gainwell. He's averaging 4.3 yards per carry, but he has just 64 attempts on the season, and we know the reason for that. You know, it's got to be because of 2-6, who unfortunately will not be able to break that Eric Dickerson record. But what a fantastic season for Saquon Barkley. I think that this is going to be a bit of a step in the right direction of Saquon getting a gold jacket. You know, being one of however few running backs to breach 2,000 yards is definitely a major accomplishment.
No, I think he's a 9th, if I'm not mistaken.
9th?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's what's up. But what are your thoughts on this matchup?
It's listen, this is one of those ones that's tough to really tell. Like, you know, you could tell the sports book is going to have trouble with this. I mean, look, the Eagles are favored by 3 at home against a 3-win team. So that goes to tell you that, like, let's say this was starters for Philadelphia. They'd probably be 13, 14 and a half point favorites, you know. So it's kind of interesting. Speaking of top 3s, I've had some crazy people on Twitter, you know. The Eagles fans, every one of the NFC East fan bases has a group within the fan base that are just,
it's humans.
Yeah, it's exactly. They said that the Eagles might have the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFC East. Speaking on Jalen Hurts.
The Eagles quarterback?
Yeah. Speaking
top
on Jalen.
3 quarterbacks? Repeat it again. I don't understand what's being said.
The Eagles might have 3 of the top 4 quarterbacks in the NFC East. Saying that Hurts, McKee, and Pickett.
Who are you talking to?
Listen, I'm not talking to these people. I'm just, you know.
Who is this person?
It comes across. See,
that's the kind of shit that got you thinking Terry McLaurin's top 7.
I mean, nah, listen.
You talking with these
I'm
people.
going off of, you know, that's a bit of a homer bias with Terry McLaurin, okay? If you look at the numbers, we'll save that for another show. But anyways, listen, this Tanner McKee kid, yeah, he can play. How can he play for an extended period of time? Who knows? A lot of people in Philadelphia wanted McKee as their number 2 outside of over Pickett behind Hurts. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was 3 of 4 in the limited throws that he had, but 2 touchdowns on 4 attempts for 54 yards. So, I mean, A.J. Brown threw his first touchdown ball into the stands by accident. But the fan gave it back to him. Shout out to that guy. So, it's really going to come down to, like, who's playing. I think even more so defensively for the Eagles, because I think offensively they're gonna find a way. I don't know what they're gonna do. Like you said, I love Kenneth Gainwell. He's like one of the, like, perfect sort of third down running backs. You know, can catch the ball in the backfield, shifty, fast. He can run any hole in the line. It doesn't really matter. Like, you know, he's not like that sort of small, like Darren Sproles sort of situation. But, like, I think he's a serviceable running back in a spot situation like this. Tanner McKee, like, is this going to be the game that Jahan Dotson lives up for the 3rd round pick that the Eagles traded to my Commanders for? We'll have to wait and see. They still have I mean, I wonder if Grant Calcutta is going to play tight end, because he's their starter, even though he's their backup. So that'll be interesting to see if he plays.
What's his name just got off IR? Dallas Goedert, which sent C.J. Uzomah to IR as well, or like they put him on the practice squad or something like that. So they were saying he might get some reps in this game to get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting there. But I think defensively is going to be to see who plays defensively for the Eagles and what their backups really look at. Because I feel like if you're outside of your own team, it's a little bit easier to know backups on these teams offensively more so than it is defensively. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how the Eagles perform defensively. Also being, they're one of the best defensive teams in the NFL. But the Giants were doing things last week against the Colts that I want to stop. Well, I know you guys don't want to see, but I'm curious to see if they can replicate. This is something that I don't think they did all year long at anywhere rate close to this, but they had 6 plays over 30 yards last week against the Colts.
Yeah, a lot of it was yak. Malik Neighbors catching these short kind of passes and just taking them to the house. And Darius Slayton had like the 10-yard reception that he took to the house too. So when you looked at the passing chart for Drew Lock, it was a lot of 10 and under.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if they can make those sort of plays offensively this week against Philadelphia Eagles defense that might be playing a lot of people none of us have ever heard of before. I mean, the Giants, we talked about them, what they were averaging in points per game going into this game. Shout out to the Giants. They are no longer the lowest point per game team in the NFL. They have climbed up to the second worst team when it comes to points per game. They're averaging now 16.3 points per game. So it's going to be interesting what they can do against Philadelphia, if they can continue to score points or not. I mean, Philadelphia is probably still going to run the ball a ton, even with Gainwell averaging 187.3 yards per game, number 1 in the league. And can the Giants score points is going to be interesting. The Eagles are so good defensively against not allowing touchdowns. And I know that this is going to be a different team than we've seen the rest of the year, but the defensive coordinator, Vic Fangelo in Philly is a guy. So can he utilize these backups and still, because these guys are still going to want to win. This is still a division game. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They've only allowed 9 rushing touchdowns all year, 3rd fewest in the NFL, and 21 passing touchdowns all year, which is 10th fewest in the NFL. So they're top 3, 4 in total amount of touchdowns allowed all season. So it's going to be interesting. I think the Eagles find a way to win this game. I do. I feel like you got guys. When you have backups, there's like these different levels of backups, right? You have the backups that are like backups, like they're not that good, right? Then you have backups that could be starters potentially on other teams, right? Or are just haven't had that many opportunities. And then you have guys who are backups who are trying to showcase what they can do in hopes of earning more playing time, whether it be with the team that they're playing for currently, or if they're a free agent and they're heading into, free agency. So I think Philadelphia puts up a good game. I still think the Giants play better than what they've played for most of the season, albeit against the backups. But I'm gonna take the Eagles to win this game 23-20.
23-20. I like that score. I'm not gonna fall for it. The performance from last week trickling into this week. We saw what the Philadelphia Eagles did to the Dallas Cowboys last week. And, they had, missing their starting quarterback, and that really makes that whole Philadelphia Eagles offense go. I think they'll find a way to win this game too. And it's unfortunate, as far as history goes, with the New York Giants not winning in Philly since 2013. I mean, we're beyond a decade now. Mm-hmm. That's just some unheard of shit. But I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles as well. More because I really don't want to win this game, because if you get to the 4-win, category there, that could ruin some draft stuff even more. And I really still think that there's a small chance that the New York Giants could possibly get one of the top 2 quarterbacks, even if they are picking at pick number 4. So I'm going to take the Eagles in this one as well. I say they'll score about 20. Let's go 24. I say they win this one 24-20. Did you go 23-20?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go 24-20. I think that's a good score.
I like it. Big shout outs to Simeon Toko, the $5 super chat. Says, let me hit the tip jar for literally and figuratively the longest damn
I
season.
hear you, bro. I definitely hear you, man. It's the last couple of weeks. I remember saying it like the last 4 weeks. I was like, yeah, this is going to be the longest stretch of the year. And it really has. I'm truly looking forward to this season, this regular season being completely over for the New York Giants, so I can like get out of 2024 mode and get into 2025 mode as far as prospects and preparing for the draft and getting ready, maybe even looking at some of these tier 2 quarterbacks as well that the Giants might have to settle for. But shout out Simeon, man. You've been here the whole season, Simeon. We appreciate you, my dog.
Big shout out, big shout out. Also, big shout out to Prime Mo, also known as Primo. Shout out DJ Premier with a $1.99 super chat. Says, bring back Boston Scott for this game.
Bullshit.
Listen, there is not one NFC East team that ever wants to see Boston Scott playing for the Philadelphia Eagles again. Yeah. I feel like you're not a true NFC East fan if you have never been tortured by Boston Scott at least one point in your life, because that guy is just an NFC East killer. Shout out to
somewhere in the league
Boston
still,
Scott.
too, I think.
He might still be on.
I think he's on some squad.
Is he on the practice
Colts or somebody
squad?
like that. Maybe a practice squad, but I remember seeing somebody picked him up, and I was so surprised to see Philly didn't keep him around because that dude was a Giants dagger for a long time, man. But yeah, this would be the game, and maybe put him on the Colts last week or something, because fuck, man, that Colts I keep wanting to say lost because in my mind and in my heart we lost, but we won. It's crazy. Shout out Prime Mo, man.
Listen, this is how bad it was. Josie was talking to me about it. She was like, the Giants. I'm like,
yeah, you fucked that up.
I'm like, obviously my wife is an athlete, so she knows a little bit, she knows sports, and she knows obviously what we talk about and stuff like that. But like, to really understand how bad of a win that was, you got to be tuned in, and it's got to be a big story too if you're not tuned in, because that was one of the all-time, lost wins.
It's one of the worst ones. I don't remember, like the Texan one was with Lovie Smith was kind of like that, but they went from 1 to 2. Like this one killed us, man. But shout out Prime Mo, we appreciate you, my dog. Big
shout out to the OG, the originator of the authentic and the body, authentic and the beer. Our guy Paulie checking in from the Waterboys Network. Make sure y'all go subscribe to the Waterboys Network. He says Shane bodied?
Shane needs to be the body, Paulie. That's what we need. Remember how we were talking about multiple bodies? We're hoping it's Shane. We're hoping. We'll see. I don't think so. I think Shane is in the clear as far as 2025 goes. But big shout out to Paulie, man, for supporting the channel. Definitely means a lot, my dog.
Oof, man. The streets need some bodies. They need.
Yeah.
I don't know. What if they don't get any bodies?
They got one already.
They got one.
Daniel Jones' corpse.
Daniel Jones
ain't right there.
That body. It was a dead man walking to me. If you knew, you knew, right?
Mm-hmm. We're just waiting for it to flatline.
Yeah. Big shout out to John checking in with a $5 super chat. Says already looking forward for free agency. Giants need leaders. Would love Shane to go get Buda Baker, I'd imagine. But thank you, NCAA football, for entertainment. Texas game was crazy. It was bananas. Big shout out to Cam Scattaboo. I mean, that dude had a monster game. Dude threw a touchdown.
Representing for them Caucasians, boy.
Yeah. Threw a touchdown, had like 80 yards receiving, 140-something rushing. Like, he put on a show. I mean, he's not the best running back in the country. I know he said that, but still, he's a guy.
I know he said that.
He's a guy that's going to, you got to love the confidence. He's a guy that's going to be on some radars. I think he's probably 2 or 3 in running back rankings as far as, available in this year's draft. The kid out of Virginia Tech, I don't think a lot of people know about him. He's really good too. So
yeah, I got a list of running backs from a trusted scout. It's about 25 of them that I got to go and do some deep dives on their tape. But running back is, not at the top of the draft for me. That's going to be fifth round.
It's at the top of the draft for you, my guy. Yeah.
Right? I've been seeing these mock drafts with Genty going to the Giants. I'm like, fuck y'all. What are y'all? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? All right. But let's get off into your game, man. I'm interested to see what your thoughts are on the Commanders. They're going to be traveling to Jerry World to take on the Dallas Cowboys. All right, man. Commanders at 10-5. The Dallas Cowboys at 7-9. Kickoff is Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Commanders favored by 4 in this one. Last week, the Commanders beat the Falcons on Sunday Night Football 30-24. The Cowboys lost to the Eagles 41-7. The last meeting between these two teams, the Cowboys beat the Commanders 34-26 earlier this year. The Cowboys have won 6 of the last 7 matchups versus the Washington football team, Commanders, Redskins. Is there any between that? I think that was it.
No, that was it.
The Commanders have lost 3 straight to Dallas by an average margin of victory of 23 points. Now, the one game that was a 8-point differential was with Jane Daniels at quarterback, so you could take that with a grain of salt for sure. The Commanders have won 4 straight games since losing to Dallas in Week 12. That was y'all last loss. Jane Daniels will be the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year this year. The only NFC East team that Jane Daniels has not beat so far is the Dallas Cowboys. So this could really be, like a full circle moment for Jane Daniels. The Commanders are 3-2 in the division after going 0-6 in the division last season. Talk about a 180-degree turn. It's been a true commitment to the rebuild, and the Washington Commanders are definitely reaping the results from this one. Jane Daniels, man, we didn't get to talk about it too much, but Daniels really makes it look easy. No running game for real last week. Terry McLaurin with 1 reception. Brian Robinson with 60 yards on the ground. Michael Penix Jr. battling, leads the Falcons down the field to get the game-tying score to send the game to overtime. Jane Daniels just completely dominates in overtime, drives the Washington Commanders down the field for a walk-off touchdown to win that game. 16 rushes for 127 yards, 24 of 36 for 227 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns. He did have the 1 interception early in the game. The Commanders, this is why I got to keep doubling down on this about splitting the rushing statistics from the quarterback and the running backs. When you look at the box score, the Commanders rushed for 216 yards as a team last week, and most of that comes from the quarterback. The running game was not quite there throughout the game. I think it just goes to show you the importance of a quarterback who can run and what that does to your running game. Some of those numbers I talked about from Daniel Jones even supporting Tyrone Tracy. And how many times this year have I spoke on Daniel's ability to uplift the team when everything else around them is not going quite perfect? I mean, the way that he got Zacchaeus involved in this game, I think that should be studied. Zacchaeus is having his best season right now, most receptions. He's tied for a career high in touchdowns. I want to see him get in the end zone so that he can break that career high of 3 touchdowns. The Dallas Cowboys defense is getting a little bit better. Micah Parsons, 8.5 sacks since returning from injury. I think Jane Daniels is going to need another big day. Dan Quinn did come out and say that we really want to go out here and win this game. We're not letting up on nothing. No CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys. I truly don't see a path of victory for the Dallas Cowboys in this game unless we get a very lackluster version of the Washington Commanders offense that's coming into this game, I believe, averaging 28 points per game. So as long as you can get somewhere near that, I think this should be a pretty easy victory for the Washington Commanders. But what are your thoughts on this matchup before we get to that roadmap?
I mean, look, last week, don't get it twisted. Obviously, the Commanders are a good team, really good team. But we've gotten lucky a lot of times this year to get to 11 wins, okay? Hail Mary, that's great. Jane Daniels and Noah Brown did it, but that was part of a debacle that led into that, okay?
I've been seeing a lot of the analysts around here talking about that. And I'm a little bit split. I didn't go back and look at all the games, though, but where else along the line did y'all get lucky? The first matchup against the Giants, you could say, where Malik Neighbors doesn't make the catch on the sideline, that could have been a loss.
I totally forgot about that one too.
Yeah, is there any other matchups you think
I guess
that were
the second Giants game was the kicker sniped kicker was the second Giants game, wasn't it? Or was that the first Giants game?
Are you talking about with Graham Gano?
Yeah.
That was the first joint, I think. Was that even against y'all?
No,
it was because it's the game we walked into where Austin Eckler ran the kickoff back, and that's when Graham Gano got hurt. That was the Week 3 matchup.
Okay, so there's that one. Then you have, obviously, the Hail Mary. Then you have the Devonta Smith drop, and then the Saints game. The Saints game, we kind of got lucky getting out of that one a little bit. I can't remember the exact moment, but, I mean, they went for 2. Obviously, if you really want to nitpick. And then the Atlanta Falcons game. Raheem Morris not calling a timeout is absolutely insane, okay? Just the craziest thing in the world.
But do you look at that one as lucky? You got lucky? Well, I thought the Commanders dominated that game.
I mean, I wouldn't say lucky, but, some things had to happen. Yeah, we dominated, but we killed ourselves in that game, with the penalties.
I look at the Falcons
like
one a little bit different just because they didn't go for 2 anyway, right? They scored on the drive that's in question with the time management at the end of the game. They end up scoring anyway. and then you guys just
Well, no,
dominated
that
in half.
was they didn't score on that game with the timeouts.
Are you talking about the last Atlanta matchup on Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, they missed the field goal to win it on that drive where he didn't call the timeout.
Oh, yeah, because they had a chance to win it in regulation, and
Yeah.
it was like a 54-yarder that came up short with the backup kicker.
And they let 16 they had the completion for like 30 yards, and then they let 16 seconds go off the clock, and they had 2 timeouts just chilling there.
Yep,
they could have ran 4 or 5
one.
more plays, you know what I'm saying? So, and then the Bijan Robinson running Wildcat Bijan Robinson when they drove down to the field, even though they did score a touchdown on that drive, which was crazy on 4th and goal from like the 21-yard line.
Yeah.
You know, but that was Michael Penix. That was a great moment for Michael Penix. Authentic and I are both big Michael Penix fans, but yeah, I mean,
and not the best game from him either. He was inaccurate.
He was
throughout
inaccurate.
most of the first 3 quarters of that game too.
He missed Drake London on a wide open touchdown, you know, so he got lucky because the next play was the Pitts touchdown. But it's just maybe lucky's not the best word to use.
Yeah, I've been noticing a lot of people using that word, and I'm like, Commanders have played inferior competition and beaten them. That's how I looked at the season. You don't have, I don't think. The only 5 above 500 win is the Philadelphia Eagles. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. That to me, that's what the story of the season is. It's a good team that's winning games that against bad teams they should win.
Yeah. So but we've been in the. That's the other thing too, is that we never got our asses whooped this year.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the other thing too. I think that's to kind of counter that debate, argument, or conversation about that, is that they never got their asses beat. Even against all the best competition that they played. And then the one game I think that really stood out is the first game, the Tampa Bay game. You know, we lost by double digits in that game, but that was a completely different Jaden Daniels, completely different offensive game plan than what you're seeing now. I mean, that game, actually, the Atlanta game, was the most watched Sunday Night Football game of the year.
Oh, that's what's up.
I mean, I think that'll probably change this week because I think the Sunday night game is Minnesota-Detroit for the division. So that'll probably be over. But that was Washington's first overtime win since Week 8, 2014. So like that, and listen, there's a lot of things that the Commanders did, and Jaden Daniels has done. Like Jaden Daniels' numbers are good, really good, right? They're not necessarily. They're not Lamar Jackson, you know, with the touchdowns to interception ratio.
Not 2024 Lamar Jackson, but they're eerily similar to 2023 Lamar Jackson, who won the MVP.
Yeah, so like there is some things here. Listen, that was the first time Washington has won back-to-back games trailing by 10 or more points in franchise history. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, that was one of the things that stood out to me too. There's a couple other ones here. Jaden Daniels, you talked about that overtime drive. Jaden Daniels is the only quarterback in the last 30 years to go 5 of 5, have 0 sacks and 40-plus rushing yards in a drive. And the drive he did it on was the drive in overtime to win. So, like, another thing here, too, is first quarterback to have 200-plus passing yards, 2+ touchdowns, and 65+ rushing yards in 3 straight games. No quarterback in NFL history has ever done that before. Also, he has 12 passing touchdowns in the 4th quarter and overtime this year, and that's the most ever by a rookie quarterback. And he's the first rookie quarterback with 4,000 total yards, 30+ total touchdowns, and 10+ wins. So, I mean, he's doing things that just, you know, they sound like weird stats, right? Like sometimes you get upset when people are just like, they make up these stats and they're just kind of like, well, it sounds cool, but like, is it really? These are sort of things that they just never even been done before. Like, you know, and I'm sure Lamar has probably come close to a couple of things like that. Same with RG3. I think he broke.
But not for rookie because Lamar didn't play
much as a rookie.
Didn't start him,
outside of the rookie. Outside of the rookie ones, though, like you would think that the line like the 5 of 5, no sacks and 40+ rushing yards, you would think that's something that Josh Allen would do, Lamar would do. You know what I'm saying? Like those are the type of quarterbacks that will put it together, a drive like that. So to think that that's never been done in the last 30 years is kind of interesting.
Yeah, that one is.
And then I think he broke RG3's record for most rushing yards for a quarterback in NFL history.
The one that I was questioning was the 4,000 yards as a rookie.
First rookie with 4,000 total yards, 30 or more total touchdowns, and 10+ wins.
and 10-plus wins. Because Cam Newton checks that box, except I don't know about the wins. I don't know how many wins Carolina had in 2011.
Yeah, Cam went crazy that rookie year.
Yeah, that's the first person that came to mind when you said that.
He's in a lot of these sort of these tier of these things that he's doing as well too. So
they were 6-10 in Cam's rookie year. Is that right? No, that's not right. That's not right. That didn't make any sense.
I think they were 8. I think they were 8-8 in his rookie year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it says they were 6-10.
6-10.
Yeah. So that the wins is the one thing where Cam would not be able to live up to that stat. Yeah.
So yeah, that's just, that's some of the things that kind of stood out to me after that game last week. I mean, obviously you're going up against Dallas. This is not that different of a Dallas team than when we lost to them, outside of obviously not having their best player in CeeDee Lamb, so like, which in this case, not having a CeeDee Lamb on Dallas Cowboys does completely change the landscape of their team. Although I thought some of their players kind of stepped up a little bit in the absence of CeeDee Lamb, but not enough to actually score points. They only had 7 points, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. Right? So, yeah, so they had 4 turnovers last week. One of the things, the big difference that Dallas has been doing during this winning streak, or not necessarily winning streak, but this period of kind of bouncing back from that horrible start, was forcing turnovers and not turning the ball over. They didn't force any turnovers against Philadelphia. They didn't even sack they didn't sack Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee once. I mean, they probably only threw the ball 16, 17 times. So, give them a little slack there. But Dallas had 4 turnovers against the Eagles last week. They didn't have any sacks. Dallas allowed 179 yards rushing last week. That's kind of been their Achilles heel. They've been very good about getting to the quarterback, especially since Michael Parsons get back. You said how many sacks since he's been back? 8 sacks?
8.5.
8.5 sacks since he's been back. They have the 4th most sacks in the year, 46. They have the 2nd highest sack percentage in the NFL this year, 8.7%. So 8.7% of the times in which quarterback drops back against Dallas are getting sacked. So that's kind of impressive, especially given all of the injuries that they've had throughout the year. The rush defense, these two teams cannot stop the run. Obviously, Washington's going to have to find a way to stop the run if they want to win a playoff game. The rumors, I saw somebody mention it in the chat, the rumors are that the Rams do not want the Commanders' smoke, and they're resting their players, which would potentially set up a matchup with Tampa Bay. But yeah, so they're going to have to find a way to stop the run. Washington's 5th worst against the run. Dallas is 4th worst against the run. They're only separated by 1.9 yards in average yards allowed per game. Dallas is still allowing the 2nd most points per game at 27.8, whereas Washington, you said already, was scoring 28.9, 5th most in the NFL. Washington is top 5 in a lot of offensive statistics this year. They're number 5 in red zone percentage. They're number 5 in third down percentage. They're 3rd in rushing yards per game. They're 3rd in scoring percentage, which is a crazy number. A lot of the teams that are above them are like the teams that are like Super Bowl contenders: Bills, Lions, Ravens, teams like that. But their scoring percentage is 50.6. They are scoring on 50.6% of their drives, which is kind of, it's crazy to think about as a Washington fan coming from where we were last year. And then they're 3rd in average time per drive, which I thought was amazing. They're averaging 3 minutes and 2 seconds per drive. And it doesn't sound crazy, but when you think about how many drives, 3 and outs, like, you're talking averages here. Like, think about a 3 and out. If you pass the ball 3 times, that's probably like a 9-second drive, right? So like to average that and sustain that throughout the course of 16 games is kind of impressive in my book. So 3rd in average time per drives at 3 minutes and 2 seconds. So, Washington should win this game. And I think that they're hungry. And, to see Jaden Daniels lose to the Eagles and then come back and beat them, obviously we beat the Giants 2 times, but I think that this is something that is on their list as far as the revitalization of this organization, right? Like, a lot of people will tell you that Dallas Cowboys loss was the worst loss of the season for the Washington Commanders.
Most unexpected too. That was when the Dallas Cowboys were really like in limbo. People were thinking they were going to be headed towards, the destination where the New York Giants are really at right now. And that game kind of like really solidified the Dallas Cowboys. Like, we're not tanking. We're battling.
Yeah. And so like it's important for Washington, not just, for the fact that obviously if we win that game, we get the 6th seed, which I think is important. I think
is it just a win and get the seed situation no matter what happens?
Win and get the seed no matter what. So because we're currently now locked in at this number 6 seed. So even if Green Bay wins and we win, we get the 6
at 6, not 7. It's 6, huh?
6, yeah.
6, okay. Yeah. So that matchup against Philly is eliminated. No matchup against Philly in the first round as a possibility at all.
If we lose or if we get knocked down to the 7th seed, then we have to play Philly.
Got you. That will be a loss with y'all and a win by Green Bay.
Yep.
Okay, got you.
So we could still get down to that seed. So I think it's important, and I think Dan Quinn mentioned that, and you're gonna see. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, say they jump out to like a crazy lead, like Dallas in the Philly game. I wouldn't be surprised if they started pulled the guys at that point. But I think that they really want this win. Not just for the seeding, but for the organization to kind of, put that exclamation point on this season as a whole, and then moving into the playoffs, because there's a lot of things that we need to work on. Run defense, running the ball, getting back to running the ball like you talked about. And I think it's so important, and I don't think enough people talk about it, is that separation between the running statistics for quarterbacks and as a team as a whole with the running backs. Because we talked about this so many times about Brian Robinson being the engine behind this offense. And he hasn't really come back and done that fully in a game from start to finish, since that last injury that he had. And
it's a twin cam motor over there, because now Jaden Daniels he's took over as the engine now. You don't the Washington offense no longer necessarily has to rely on the running back anymore, because they have a guy that's really trending towards elite at the quarterback position right now.
And that game against Atlanta, that was a different sort of Jaden Daniels game than all the other ones. Like, that was like a superstar in the NBA, like just taking over in a fourth quarter, and you know how it is in NBA when you see a guy take over a game, right? Like, it's like, this dude just can't miss, like he's taking shots like there's nobody else is going to touch the ball in the fourth quarter sort of moment. And that's what he did. Like, some of those runs were just, one of my favorite things is, and I wish somebody would put together a clip, like a real eclipse of this, is that little that he does when he feels that defender getting ready to take a swipe at his ankles. He does this little hop step thing. And he does it, and it's just everything about Jaden Daniels when he's running, like it's different than looking at Lamar run. Like it's Lamar has more speed, I think, than Jaden Daniels does.
I don't know.
And
more quickness, I'd say, more burst.
There you go. That's a good
top end speed. Jaden Daniels might be faster for him.
That one run that Lamar had last week where he broke away, like that looked like.
Yeah, because a lot of the skill set that he showed at LSU, he has not had a chance to really show that in the league. Like, when I look at Jaden Daniels as a runner, he reminds me most of Justin Fields.
That's an interesting one. And I saw a lot of people trying to use that as a downplay of what Jaden Daniels is, comparing him to Justin Fields, which is, people are going to hate on Justin Fields no matter what he does, so that's kind of where that is. But yeah, I expect, they need to clean up the penalties. I feel like I've been talking about it for the last 5 damn weeks, bro. Like, last week, 12, 13 penalties, I think, it was over 100 yards in that Falcons game. And it was just some of those penalties, putting them in. I mean, Jaden Daniels overcame like 3rd and 20s, 2nd and 30s, like 1st and 25s. Like, it was a lot to overcome in that game. So those are 3 things that they obviously need to clean up. We're not going to have Lattimore for this game. He's going to rest up. We're not going to have Austin Eckler, who they just opened up his 21-day window. But those 2 guys should be back for the playoffs, which is going to help, obviously, tremendously, offensively and defensively. But a big shout-out to Gregory. Ridgeway is now on the New Orleans Saints. So, but yeah, we're going to talk about that now. I think it's time we just let's get these people on the road, because It's going to be a long off season here for some of these Giants fans in the chat and Cowboys fans in the chat, but we're going to get you guys on a quick little road trip here to victory.
All right, let's get it.
Yeah, you get on the freeway. What? No, turn right. Get out of the lane. No. Okay, get in position. Just get out the lane.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is not the final roadmap to victory for the Washington Commanders, which I never would have thought I would say, but we are here. And in order to get to 12 wins, this is what's going to happen for the Washington Commanders. I just talked about it, the penalties. You got to cut the penalties down. I'm going to need less than 5 penalties from the Washington Commanders in this game. You're going to have to find a way to stop the run. As bad as that Cowboys offense was last week, Rico Dowdle over 100 yards last week. We want to keep the Dallas Cowboys under 100 rushing yards in this game.
Rico Dowdle in your sit-em section.
He was in my sit-em section. He didn't score a touchdown, but he got 100 yards. I wanted to make sure I said that so that I was taking accountability for my sleepers, my sit-em section.
Looked like he's going to let it just kind of brush on by.
No, I wasn't going to let it slide. I made sure I said it for those of you that remembered. Obviously, Authentic remembered.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to need
I had to screw up on mine, too. There was somebody in my sit-em section that definitely went off this past week, too, but go ahead.
We're going to need some running game back in action for the Washington Commanders. Obviously, it's going to become a weekly thing now. Jaden Daniels is going to have to run the rock. I'm going to need at least 40 yards rushing from Jaden Daniels. And Brian Robinson Jr., I almost called you Bijan, but I'm going to need you to eat your Dijon and give me 80 yards mustard on the ground against the Dallas Cowboys, okay? And then the others, listen, McNichols had a hell of a play on 4th down last week. Chris Rodriguez looked fantastic in his limited action, so I'm going to need 50 yards rushing from those 2 guys combined as well. And then listen, you got to jump out to an early lead. I am envisioning a Washington Commanders 14-0 start to this matchup, and I think that's very important in winning. And you talked about scoring points. 28-plus is on the roadmap. And then last but certainly not least, when you park the car, you take off your seatbelt, take your keys out the ignition. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a time of possession, turnovers, and 3rd down victory. And I think the Washington Commanders win this game fairly easy. I hate saying that because nothing is easy for Washington. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go 31-17 Washington Commanders.
I like it. I think it'll be an easier route to victory as far as the points put up by Washington. So I'm going to go a little bit less. I'm going to go 27. No CeeDee Lamb is going to make this a walk in the park, if you ask me. I'm gonna actually change that. Let's not go 27. Let's go. It'll be a coast to victory type of vibe. I'm gonna go 25-17.
25-17. Not too shabby, sir. Not too shabby.
25-17, and we got a couple of super chats here one time. I think we didn't get this one.
Oh, we got that one.
We got that one. Okay.
Big shout out to John. Big shout out to Stanley Frederick with the $5 super chat. Says, what do you think Giants draft Luther Burden? Love this kid. In the 1st round and draft Malachi Starks in the 2nd round. What are your thoughts?
Malachi's the safety, right? So they would go wide receiver safety with the first 2 picks again. I already don't like it. I don't like it already. Sorry, bro. Sorry, Stanley. I'm sorry, bud. Wide receiver safety in back-to-back seasons? I don't know, man. I don't know about that one.
You got to get a quarterback.
But you got to get a quarterback in the first 2 rounds, I would imagine. I got to dig into the draft stuff more because I don't even know where Luther is projected to go right now. Is he going to be like
he's a late 1st round draft pick?
Late first rounder? So then where do we draft him? Are we going to draft him? Are we going to trade back or are we going to draft him with our 4th overall selection? Yeah, I don't know about that.
I would give him mid. He's a guy that could fly up the draft boards, but as of right now, I think Yeah, I mean Jaden down there, McMillan out of Arizona. That guy is an absolute machine.
Yeah, Tetherall McMillan. I told y'all last year that was going to be wide receiver 1 coming into this year. And he regressed this year a little bit. The quarterback play hasn't been good. The team hasn't been as good over there. But from a skill standpoint, Tetherall McMillan's the guy that I would absolutely want on this roster. But I'm not thinking about wide receiver in the first round. I ain't gonna lie.
Like you have to be dialed in on quarterback. Everything could possibly change for the New York Giants from now until the end of Sunday night, right? Like that's really what you got to kind of just sit back right now and wait and see where all the chips fall. And
I kind of disagree with that because you'd be banking on teams getting victories that are above you that probably ain't going to win. The Browns are starting Dorian Thompson-Robinson again at quarterback. They're like it's a 90% chance that they're not going to win, right?
So right now it's what? 1 is New England.
Yeah, Tennessee at
Cleveland?
number 2. I thought it was Tennessee at number 2, Cleveland at number 3, but those are the 3 teams that are ahead of us.
Yeah, so
even if they lose, even if they win, we still have to lose to the Philadelphia Eagles backups. I'm not. We talked about this on the Giant Overreaction about this whole like sitting and waiting shit. I'm not. Nah, like you got to be proactive right now. If the New York Giants want a quarterback, they're likely going to have to trade up to get one. But in the scenario that we're at 4th overall selection, you got to wait and see what pans out there. And if the 2 top quarterbacks go off the board, you can't draft a quarterback in the first round at that point. You're going to have to spend that draft pick on another position.
Yeah. So when I say sit and wait, it's kind of more so like as far as what position you're going to be in the draft before you just try to dial up a projection. Because if and you talked about this a little bit, I believe, on Giant Overreaction, if they believe that Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders is their guy, they have to absolutely do everything they can to go get them. Did you ever had that conversation on Twitter where, as I know you mentioned it on Giant Overreaction, where you kind of wanted to test the waters and see if the fan base thinks that those 2 quarterbacks are worth trading up for? If you need
I didn't ask, but there are people that have done polls and whatnot about wanting to trade up, and I would say it's like the majority would not want to trade up for these 2 quarterbacks.
What do you think? Would you?
I would consider trading up for Cam Ward possibly, but what are we going to trade up? Is it going to be 2 first and a swap this year? No, I'm not doing that.
It's going to be an interesting unfolding here moving forward, Stanley.
And this is the thing. You look at the matchups for next week. Because I have them here. It's the Browns versus the Ravens, right? And they're probably going to be playing against backups, but they're purposely tanking. Why do you think they're not playing Jameis Winston at the quarterback position?
And you think 1,000% the Browns would pick a quarterback?
No, I'm not necessarily thinking that, but there's only 2 quarterbacks, and I'm just saying that we will be at 4.
Yeah.
With 3 teams ahead of us and 2 quarterbacks, I think that it's very likely, and this is why I said the plan is you have to wait and see what happens in the first 3 picks, and then you pivot. If one of your quarterbacks is not there by the time you're at 4, you have to trade back, and you can't go in with that it's quarterback or nothing mentality.
You're gonna at 4, definitely not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then that's why I'm breaking down these games. The Titans play the Texans, the Patriots play the Bills. And the Bills are gonna sit Josh Allen, but the odds that any of these teams win this, I mean, the Patriots have lost 6 straight games. The Titans have lost 5 straight games. The Browns have lost 5 straight games. So this narrative that they might win and we still have the toughest strength of schedule over all of these teams anyway. So if we have the same record and the tiebreaker comes down to strength of schedule, we're going to clear all 3 of these teams. That's the other thing. So the Giants going to have to sit there at 4, pray that, maybe these people devalue Cam Ward and he's still there. That'd be what I would want out of it. Yeah. If it's Shedeur Sanders, whatever the other person might want, the GM or any of these other fans, I'm cool with that too. But then once you get to 4 and you realize 2 quarterbacks off the board and it's going to be Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe, you got to trade back and make, you have to pivot at that point.
Has Milroe declared?
I don't think so.
I was hearing rumors of him entering the transfer portal, so that would be interesting too.
Yeah, people were mentioning USC as one of the teams I thought too, but I don't think Milroe's ready to go right now. Milroe, from a passing standpoint, from what I've seen so far, is just not ready to go. That's how I kind of see it.
Big shout out to Lou Mateo in the building with the $5 super chat. Says, "What up, fellas? Happy 2025." Yo, Beard, how would you feel if you were a Giants fan right now? I've felt where I have been where you are. I mean, My thing is, and I've been preaching this to the Giants fans for most of this year, when the wheels really started to fall off. If I'm a Giants fan right now, I'm praying that my owner cleans house. And you do a real extensive, you bring in people before you even bring in people. You bring in people to find the people to bring in. Because I think that was one of the most important things I think that kind of flies under the radar of everything that Washington did, is that they brought in basically an entire team of people to sit down and make the decisions that led to all of the pieces that we put together this year. So that's kind of where I would be. I mean, I would feel right now a little bit upset because, obviously I was where you were, but we locked up the number 2 pick. Whereas you guys are in the situation that we just kind of talked about. But yeah, I mean, you just would hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that light being a brand new quarterback that, fits with hopefully a new GM, new head coach, new coaching staff as a whole. That would be the best thing that would happen, in my opinion, for the New York Giants.
Yeah, he could have just said you'd feel like shit, because that's what it feels like to be a New York Giants fan. It's pretty simple at this moment in time.
Worst thing reason possibly imaginable. Worst.
I mean, they lost 10 straight games, and I think the only difference between the two franchises is the Giants are coming from the perspective of being a known winner in the past few decades, and we're just getting used to this shit. I think that's the toughest part about it, is like, when do we get out of this funk and when do we turn the corner and start actually winning some games? But it's been tough, man. It's definitely been tough. But big shout out to Lou Mateo, man.
That's a whole different ball game there, but we appreciate you, Lou, very much so. So, big week here for Commanders, Giants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Commanders. No, we don't got to include us in any of that. We're okay. We're okay being, the guy not picked at the playground. We're okay with that. All right, we're a bad football team. It's okay, and we're not looking forward to anything this week except a New York Giants loss.
There we go. That's it.
That's it. And once that's over, 2025, here we come. With Joe Shane as your general manager and Brian Dable as your head coach. It's going to be fucked up. I promise y'all, it's going to be bad.
Don't put that voodoo on you.
It's what it's going to be, man. It's what it's going to be, bro.
It's the worst possible case scenario.
Yeah.
You lose the number 2 pick, and you keep Shane and Dable.
Number 1 pick.
Number 1 pick. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, bro. It's been tough, but we're gonna be here rooting for you, bro. We'll be rooting for your Commanders and hoping y'all get the W. And I told everybody on the Giant Overreaction, I'd like to see the Commanders go to the Super Bowl. If you guys could pull off a Eli Manning type of situation, more power to you. I would love to see that and be here, on Authentic in the Beard, streaming and talking about it in real time as it goes down. It'll be real dope. But shout out to everybody that pulled up today and rocked out with us on this 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time edition of the Best Division in Football for a Week 18 finale, regular season finale preview. Shout out to all of y'all for rocking out with us throughout the whole entire regular season, especially the New York Giants fans, because this one has been a really tough, dismal season. And, I know that when I wasn't creating content, the way that I would just completely clock out in watching YouTube or ESPN or FS1 or any of that shit when the New York Giants were this bad. So we definitely commend y'all, especially the Giants fans, for showing up to all these streams and rocking out with us, even when they're impromptu at a time like this. But Beard, any last words before we get up out of here?
Yeah, I got to give a big shout out to Platinum Power times 2 times for the $4.99 Super Chat. Says, we, the Giants, messed it all up. If both quarterbacks are gone, I think I'll go the trade down route, but want to know what you think about DB in the first round and free agency also.
Man, I'm not settled in yet on what I would want to spend the first round pick on if it's not a quarterback. I have not gotten that far to that thinking yet, to be honest. It's going to have to be BPA, but at the end of the day, I'm with you on the trading back thing. We need to get a haul, which probably won't happen.
Yeah.
The talent at the top of this draft is not like how it has been in the past, where people are going to really be wanting to trade up and spend a lot of capital. And I don't really see anybody trying to trade 2 first-rounders or something for one of these quarterbacks or for the 4th overall selection. So it's going to be tough. But stay tuned, man. Stay tuned, Platinum Power. We're going to be talking about all the prospects and all that stuff. We got a lot of time to dig into that. And I've been seeing the mock drafts and all that stuff, and I do feel it's a little premature. I want more data. More data.
The mock draft season is a whole nother world, ladies and gentlemen, a whole nother world. And big shout out to Cuda with the $4.99 Super Chat. says fans are 100% fine with swinging and missing at every other position, but won't swing at a quarterback like there isn't 20 plus other teams wanting the same quarterbacks.
Yeah. The fans, the humans, man. That's free. It's not just Giants fans. It's not just Commanders fans, Cowboys fans. It's the humans who watch NFL football. I absolutely have to find a way to try to just remove myself from those conversations, man, because
like
there's
top three Terry
McLaurin
McLaurin wide receiver conversations.
I mean, that one is crazy. But the Eagles have the three of the best four quarterbacks in the division. Who the
And one of my last words for regular season previews is one of my favorite words to say, and he's making a rare non-Sunday appearance here. So big shout out to ubiquitously.
And you didn't get it. You didn't
says they got to 130 points. You got to 130 points with McLaurin and defense putting up bad games. So shout out to everybody who had their fantasy football championships, and check us out on Sunday mornings. We appreciate all that love and all that support. And now it's time to. I got two last words here.
Mm-hmm.
Go Irish.
I could have guessed him. I really could have. I was like, I know where he's going with that. Best of luck to your Irish today, man. Best of luck to your Commanders on Sunday, getting the dub, trying to improve y'all positioning and whatnot. But shout out to everybody that pulled up, rocked out with us today, man. We will be back. Are we doing a parlay show on Sunday? What's the parlay?
I think we're going to try and do Sunday and maybe drop some over-unders for you guys and gals. I think I'm going to pick like 5 over-unders and give you guys some bets to do. So we'll see how that plays out for us moving forward. Listen, you guys are absolute rock stars, and we can't just leave without saying shout out to 59 Ways to Groove. I mean, who's to say the Giants won't take a swing at whichever quarterback wins the NCAA championship? I mean, listen, I would not be shocked if you guys drafted a former Duke quarterback, now at Notre Dame, by the name of Riley Leonard.
No, sir.
Hopefully that doesn't happen to you guys, but we appreciate the love and support. 59 Ways to Groove.
Absolutely.
And shout out Paulie. I know Paulie's a Notre Dame fan too, so shout out.
Paulie, a Notre Dame fan? How the hell did that happen, Paulie?
Yes, sir.
Go Irish. All right, man. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Thursday afternoon. No Thursday night football tonight. No Prime Vision. No none of that. Just 2 games in the NFC East. Salute to all of y'all for pulling up, rocking out with us. Y'all know how we end every show over here. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams, because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. And a life without dreams is a life in black and white. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Combat Jack. And that's a wrap, y'all. Y'all be easy. Enjoy the rest of y'all Thursday afternoon. Peace.
Spike don't care.